I remember that morning when my mom was sitting in the middle of the doorway as I reached the door, passing by her. At that moment, it felt like something flew out of me, and it felt familiar to what had happened to me when I was 7 years old. As I was coming to hug her, she pushed me aside and I fell down. That broken reaction happened again when I decided to vanish. Something took my soul away, leaving my body behind, empty, cold, quiet. When I turned and walked away from my mother, I was no longer myself. One part of me lifted up into the sky, another part stayed on the ground. The part on the ground could not see the one above, but the one above could see everything below, like I had been separated into two pieces. After 7 years with my mother, at 17 years old, I had to vanish in the wilderness. So it was time to take off, and then strength came from nowhere. I ran from my mother with dead soul, without hope of return, with the frozen feelings. I headed into the middle of nowhere, hoping that I would die so my mom could be happy. I did not want to die closer to where she could hear the news or see my dead body. I did not want any evidence or information to reach to her. I did not want anyone who could tell my mother that they saw me anywhere. I wanted to close the chapter of my life for good. I did not want any evidence. Without knowing where I was going, I took the side path. I didn't want to be seen by anyone. Hiding myself, starving to be unseen, hiding in the bushes and behind big tree. At that time, I was ashamed, afraid of my existence. I hated my existence. I didn't want to be seen by anyone. I cried for dead. I called for dead, but it did never come. On the ground, I suffered a lot, but in the sky, I kept moving. That is how I lost myself in the middle of the confusion and pain. I didn't even know where I was going, but my feet kept moving. My heart kept pounding, and I ran into deep loneliness in the hidden place, starving to be unseen. When I came to my senses, I couldn't remember how I got where I was. I had no idea how long I had been in that place. It was dark and very silent, and that is how I lost my sense of time. I could not recognize the day and the hours. I couldn't keep track of the weeks or the years. I looked around to see if I could hear or see anybody, but there was no movement. Everything was too quiet. I remember being very scared. As I processed the pain, I wondered what was about to happen next. At that moment, I experienced extreme loneliness. Every part of my body shivered, my bones trembled. I felt nothing but fear and cold. My mind had so many questions, like how did I get here? What could I do better to avoid rejection from my mother? But what have I done wrong? As I was thinking if I caused all of this to myself, at that moment, then my past days and years of suffering returned to me. My mom's first abandonment and rejection replayed in my head. And then the second time, she dumped me in the hole full of rain water. Memory replayed back. And then the third time of spiritual separation when I became born again replayed. All the beatings, the hunger, the harsh words my mom's step-siblings and my mom's stepmother told me, my step-grandmother's voice, all of those memories replayed back in my head. I hoped to restart my history, but there was no way out. My mother's angry face was so scary to remember. Her cursing voice echoed in my head, no stop in that forest. I was traumatized alone in the middle of nowhere. I remembered being extremely overworked because I went back in my memory 17 years ago to every details of what had happened to me. I was reminded how my existence had caused a problem in my mother's family and in her family life. I cried all the tears I had left with. I wondered how I became a bad person instead of a good one. As I was mourning, I remember that I came all the way from my mom's house to help her feel better. I came to die so she might be happy. Then the tears stopped. Everything shut down so I could be ready to die to make my mother happy. As I waited for death to come, my body felt exhausted. I started to drift into sleep. I don't know how long it took me to wake up, but all I remember is when I got up, there was no more darkness. The darkness was gone. It looked like daytime. I got up with my grandfather's memories. I missed him so much. I started to walk to find something to eat, using the skills I learned from my grandfather when he took me to look after cows in the forest. I began finding food and making fire. I stayed long enough in that forest, surviving on the fruit and kind of weeds grass my grandfathers had taught me to eat.